I want to talk to you about a concept generally referred to as heightened psychological accessibility. This is one of those huge, I think, psychedelic psychological concepts that we want to build big words for, but they really don't mean anything that's not accessible to any average person. I actually think more than 80% of the average person already know what this means. It refers to, as Howard Stone would say, to that period, that window of time when people who are in crisis are more vulnerable, less defensive, and much more open to suggestions and influence from outside. So if you hear that kind of explanation, you know that you already know it. Let me give an example. In my former life as a pastor, one time I received news of a member in the community who had passed away and was in the process of preparation. And immediately I had this gentleman who is so passionate about evangelism and about really bringing souls to Christ come up to me, and his main goal was simply to tell me, actually I'll just try to paraphrase what he said. He said, "Pastor, this is your window to bring this family to Christ. This is your window, use it." That's kind of the way he said it, trying to paraphrase for him. What this gentleman was referring was to the fact that these people are vulnerable at this time, that they could easily be swayed. They were ready to hear and open to hear things that in the past they've not been able to hear. So as you can see, it's a concept that is pretty much known. Why am I bringing this up? Because I think as pastors, as practitioners out there, as evangelists, it's a really important concept for us to know. And this gentleman was very right that the people were vulnerable, they were less defensive, and they could easily be swayed. But the big question for us that we need to ask is, how do we use that window? Are we going to use it and abuse it? I bet what he really wanted me to do was stand up there in front of this whole crowd and the family, when we have the whole family gathered in the church, and preach hell and brimstone and scare them to death so that they can be able to follow Christ. I mean, when you hear that, the intention is very good. It's somebody that really wants people to come to Christ. But is this the right way to do it? I would say that that is actually abusing a situation when people are very, very vulnerable, because it has the end effect of actually turning them against Christ, of going against that which we were wishing for them. I think this is the time to be able to be the tangible presence of God in the lives of these people. This is the time for them to be able to see the true and clear image of God, of a God that suffers when we are suffering, of a God that walks with us through the valley of the shadow of death, rather than a God who is going to judge people because they have not come to him. I really think this is a very important concept for us to understand and to find out ways, best ways to be able to intervene with him. What would be wrong about trying to persuade people at this time in ways that are scaring if the end effect is turning them to God? One, I think it is very, very temporary, because soon enough, when that window is over and people are back to their normal selves and they are no longer in a critical situation, they will engage their mental capacity. They are going to analytically look at the situation and see how it was abused, and most likely have the net effect of disconnecting them from God, which is the last thing we want them to do. The other thing that would make this a very wrong time to persuade people in ways that are not healthy is that it really gives them a very wrong image of who God is. And at the end of the day, our image of God has got everything to do with our relationship with God. And being able to just be able to build and reconnect people is what we're about. How do we use this window that is often offered, very time-limited window, offered to us as people that are working with people, to be the presence of God, to be a mirror image of God to them? How are you going to use that window? Think about it next time as you work with people.